I'm not going to have internet beef with somebody who lives in my city, was my mutual, and with whom I share a lot of goals and values until she decided to block me the day before yesterday, specifically because she doesn't like my videos around childism, aka adult supremacy, and the way that children are dehumanized in American society, and how that has created so many of the problems that we are all facing today. But I want to read her comment and talk a little bit about it. The comment that she left before she blocked me, we actually had a long exchange, but because she blocked me, all of those comments are gone. And so my contribution to that conversation went away into the ether. And actually, I should say that I don't know the reason that she blocked me. We can write stories in our heads about why people may block us or end a friendship or, ghost us. But we don't actually know what's going on in somebody else's head. We don't actually know what their motivation is. And usually it's about them. It's not about us. They got triggered or they were asked to look at something they didn't want to examine. They were irritated, annoyed. It was about their own distress or their own issues more often than not. At least that's what my therapist said. And it is a level of arrogance to presume that you are the reason that someone decided to press the block button or to disengage. It may be that the conversation brought up something for them that they don't want to examine. And I am hypothesizing here that that is what happened, but it is purely a hypothesis. Okay, so this is after we've had a number of exchanges. She left dozens of comments on one of my videos, and then I made a video reply, and she made a video reply, and then this comment came up, which reads a little bit like a troll comment, but I took it in good faith because I even said, I don't expect people to agree on everything. And I appreciate when folks can go back and forth with mutual respect where we don't see eye to eye. So then I was frustrated to be blocked, but let me read this comment because I want to explain the comments that followed that got deleted, because I think it's really important to this conversation about human rights, about American society, and about the oppression that kids experience. Hey, while I was outside gardening today, I was thinking about how much your use of the term adult supremacy bothers me, and I'd like to ask you to stop. And I said, well, your discomfort, if something bothers you, your discomfort is yours to deal with. Your feelings are not my responsibility. Your distress is not my responsibility. Advocating for the rights of children, I do feel is my responsibility. So I did not coin the term adult supremacy. It has been in use for a long time. And it is a highly descriptive and accurate term for the way we organize our society. Children are denied basic human rights in America. They have fewer human rights than adults do. And once they step inside a school, we actually pull back even more constitutional rights and say they don't apply to kids. Our entire society is created for adult proportions, adult needs, adult interests. Every social setting we have is done to the scale of adults, out considering the unique needs and limitations of children. This is why so many public places are really not kid-friendly and set kids up to fail. Till 1989, children were viewed as legal property of their parents. We absolutely have a hierarchy in American society where adults are supreme and children are oppressed. The fact that so many people in my comments struggle to understand that and are uncomfortable with that, especially progressive people, like this person here, are so uncomfortable with that reality that they try to diminish the oppression of children because they don't want to examine the ways that they are complicit in contributing to a system of adult supremacy. That should tell you how normalized it is in the culture. I want to recommend 2 resources to y'all. Because again, I did not coin the term adult supremacy, and I didn't come to these ideas and be an advocate for children on my own, right? Like Unusual Card said that I was centering my own feelings I was making this about my feelings. It's not, it's about the rights of children. And obviously, I am angry. I get angry when I see kids being oppressed, but it's not about my feelings at all. It's about my permaculture values of people care, wanting to design a community that is inclusive of everybody, that acknowledges the humanity of everybody, and understanding that children, the way that we treat children, the way we oppress children, the way we create trauma in children impacts all other parts of our society. We are planting the seeds of trauma. We are planting the maladaptive behaviors. We're planting cycles of abuse in kids And yet we fail to see how that ripples out through the rest of society. So even from a purely selfish perspective, if we're just looking at making the lives of adults better, then we need to make the lives of children better, because children grow into adults. These aren't my own individual unique perspectives. I am not the originator of these concepts. In fact, I was one of the people who struggled to see the way that kids are oppressed until I became a parent. And it's not because of who I am as a mother. It's because then suddenly I was interacting with children on a daily basis, both mine and my kids' friends and other children. I started to gain empathy and an additional perspective that I didn't have when I was younger, because our society is so much set up for adults that we are very blind to the ways that children are denied their rights and the ways that children are made to struggle. And it's only when we form relationships with kids, have community with children, that we start to come alongside them and realize a little bit what their lived experience is like, which is weird because we lived that experience. That was our lived experience for 18 years. I don't think any of us can look back on what happened to us as kids and think that it was okay, think that it was normal, think that we were empowered and that our childhoods were as they should have been. But a lot of that fades into the background once we become adults. We start to benefit from the system of adult supremacy. Okay, so these two sources, do not go to Amazon. I just clicked the first image of the book cover. It's called Trust Kids, Stories on Youth Autonomy and Confronting Adult Supremacy. This is a good first book if you want to look at this topic more. Second is this, I think it's basically like an anthology. There's a zine called No Against Adult Supremacy. And this is a collection of art and stories and writings from various issues of that zine. There are many other resources from child advocates that talk about the ways that childism/adult supremacy is a unique form of ableism that kids experience based on their cognitive and physical limitations and the fact that they happen to be born after you and me. That childism is a form of ableism. One of my mutuals said to me yesterday, we were having a conversation about this, about how they came to understand how childism is a form of ableism, by nature of the fact that they cared for an adult relative with a developmental disability for a number of years. And that when you care for an adult relative that has, like the equivalent capabilities of a child of a certain age, and you see the ways that that person is discriminated against in society because of their cognitive limitations, you start to understand a little bit better how children are discriminated against because of their cognitive limitations. How we superimpose adult capabilities onto kids, and that is ableism. When we are expecting children to behave in a way that is outside of their physical, mental, developmental ability, that is childism, and that is a form of ableism. But there's this other layer to it where we bring children's age into account. They're smaller, they're weaker, they were born after us, they are legally dependent on us, and that makes them primed to be oppressed. I've said many times, we had laws in this country to protect animals from abuse before we had any child abuse laws on the books. The first child abuse case prosecuted in the US had to be done under animal cruelty laws because there were no laws to protect kids. And even though people argue with me in my comments every time I say it, it is legal to strike children in every state in America. And in 16 states, it is legal for a teacher or a principal to strike children in the classroom. There is no other class of people that you can hit with your hand or an implement and have it not be a crime. But you can do it to small, helpless children. And it is not only legal, it is acceptable. It is seen as good in many, many communities across America. I'm going to tag one of my favorite accounts here who talks about that issue far more than I do. Also, all of his videos are fantastic. So yeah, I hope that explains a little bit more. I didn't come up with the term adult supremacy. It is an accurate one, and I will continue to use it. And if adults are uncomfortable looking at this issue, especially progressive adults who think they're really woke, think that they are on the side of oppressed people, they check all their boxes, advocating for Black folks, Indigenous folks, disabled folks, women, the homeless, like any kind of group that they see as marginalized, they exclude children from that group, even though children intersect with all of these other groups. It doesn't feel good to think that you're really woke, and I use that term in the best possible way, only to be confronted with the fact that you hold a lot of bias against the most powerless class in society, normalized and contributed to the oppression of that class while calling yourself progressive. That doesn't feel good to look at that, but we all need to learn to deal with our discomfort. Things may bother us. That means we need to lean into them. We need to unpack them more. We need to keep going. Because we will never have true liberation if that liberation does not include children.